All right, welcome back, and let's learn Greek together. We'll start off with some vocabulary, as we'll always do. This time, what we'll see is at the end of each of the words, it is followed by the definite article, in this case, he. This will tell us a couple things. It tells us the gender of the word, but most importantly, it tells us, therefore, what declension we're going to use, and we'll talk about that in a second. The first one is adelphe, he. Sister. By the way, as you're memorizing these, memorize also the gender. Aletheia, he. Truth. Basileia, he. Kingdom, reign, or rule. Gay, he. Earth, soil, or land. Doxa, he. Glory or honor. Ecclesia, he. Assembly or church. Exo, I have. Zoe, he. Life. Himera, he. Day. Thalassa, he. Sea or lake. Cardia, he. Heart. Phone, he. Voice or sound. And lastly, hora, he. Hour or time. Boop. Next, let's talk about the first declension. A declension is a group of adjectives or nouns or pronouns that have similar inflectional forms to show what they do in a sentence. Nouns in English have different forms to show number, like singular or plural, like for example dog or dogs, but grammatical function in English has to be indicated by either how the words are ordered or by adding additional words like prepositions. Since Greek is an inflected language, it's able to do those things expressing grammatical relationship just by the forms of the nouns themselves. So we can say then that the way that the words are ordered are a little more fluid in Greek. This allows for more subtle shifts of emphasis. There are 3 declensions in Greek. The first declension is made up of a large number of feminine nouns. That's why we learned a bunch of feminine words just now. These end usually in alpha and eta. There are a few masculine first declension nouns, but we'll talk about those later. Greek nouns have 3 characteristics: case, number, and gender. Just like in English, there are 2 numbers in Biblical Greek, singular and plural. There are 3 genders in Greek, masculine, feminine, and neuter. In English, only those third-person singular pronouns like he, she, or it, or other terms of nouns that refer to persons like man or woman or actor or actress have gender. Most English nouns are regarded as neuter or just not having a gender. On the other hand, all Greek nouns do have a gender. Most Greek nouns that refer to persons have genders that correspond to the sex of the item itself. For example, woman, sister, and queen are all feminine. Man, brother, and king are all masculine, and so on. But those nouns that we don't typically ascribe gender to do have a grammatical gender in Greek. Thus, the word land in Greek is feminine, the word world in Greek is masculine, and the definitions of those words really have nothing to do with what grammatical gender they have. Very rarely can we predict which grammatical gender a noun is going to have, and so you can only learn it by memorization and observation. So, as you're learning these Vocabulary words memorize not just the meanings, but also the gender. When it comes to syntax, the most important thing is the case. Greek has 5 cases: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and vocative. Just by looking at the cases in Greek, we can see how words are supposed to be relating to one another. First, we're going to look at the most basic functions for each of these 5 cases. The nominative case basically names or points out. It's used for the subject of a finite verb and for the predicate nominative. For the predicate nominative. A predicate nominative is the noun that completes the linking verb like to be or to become. For example, consider these 2 sentences. A woman buys cloth. The buyer is a woman. In the first sentence, the woman would be in the nominative case as the subject. In the second sentence, woman is considered the predicate nominative. Here's some examples in the Greek. Adelphe graphe, a sister writes. He ge estin basileia, the earth is a kingdom. In that example, the earth is the subject nominative and the kingdom is the predicate nominative. That's a nominative case. There's also, secondly, the genitive case. The basic function of a genitive case is to describe or to define, like an adjective does. The way that we can quickly identify a genitive noun in the English is by the word of. Therefore, basileia doxes means a kingdom of glory, which is just about the same meaning as glorious kingdom. One specific way that the genitive case is used is to show possession. For example, phone adelphes, a voice of a sister, or in other words, a sister's voice. Thirdly, we have the dative case, which can be used to express a few things. It's usually used to express personal interest or relationship. For example, like an indirect object. An indirect object is that person or thing to whom or for whom that action is being done. We'll often see them with verbs like saying, speaking, giving, and so on. For example, lego, I speak, alethean, truth, I speak truth, ecclesia, to a church. I speak truth to a church. Also, graphete adelphe, you write to a sister, or you are writing to a sister, either one. The accusative case, fourthly, limits or qualifies the action of a verb. We'll see this most commonly used for the direct object. The direct object is the one that's receiving the action of the verb. For example, blepomen gen. Gen is in the accusative, it's receiving the action. We see land. Similarly, in this question, ekousi kardian. Kardian's in the accusative's case. Do they have a heart? Fifth, the vocative case only has one purpose, and that is direct address. Most of the time, it's going to take the same form as the nominative. In this example, O adelphe blepes. In this case, it's being used in the vocative case. Oh, sister, do you see? The nominative singular form of a noun is going to be its lexical form. In other words, how we're going to find it in a Greek dictionary. We talked about the cases. Let's take a look at the forms of the first declension. There are 3 types of first declension nouns ending either in alpha or eta. We'll call them pure alpha, pure eta, or mixed. Let's take a look at a paradigm of each type. First, let's take a look at pure alpha using the noun hora. So we have the cases here on the left-hand side, and we have singular and plural in 2 different columns. Hora in the singular nominative, hora. Then we have genitive singular, horas. Dative singular, hora. Accusative singular, horon. And we have the plural side, horai, horon, horais, horas. As you can see, I ignored the vocative, because remember, it is identical, for the most part, with a nominative. It's easiest to just remember the ending. A, as, a, an, I, own, ice, as. A, as, a, an, I, own, ice, as. Next, we'll take a look at pure eta with phone as an example. Here we have phone, phones, phone, phonane, phonai, phonon, phonais, phonas. Again, it's better to memorize the endings. E, es, en, I, on, is, as. E, es, en, I, on, is, as. Then thirdly, we have our mixed. Using doxa. Doxa, doxes, doxe, doxan, doxai, doxon, doxais, doxas. A, es, an, I, on, is, as. You may have noticed here in the Biblical Greek here in the first declension, the plural endings are the same for all three types. I, on, is, as. It's those singular forms that make them different. You may have also noticed that hora and doxa both end in an alpha. So why is one of them pure alpha and why is the other one mixed? It all depends on the letter that precedes the alpha. If the letter that precedes the alpha is a vowel, usually epsilon or iota, or if it's rho, then that's going to be the pure alpha type. If the alpha is preceded by any other letter, like the doxa was xi, and in thalassa it's sigma, then it's going to be considered mixed type. First declension nouns that end in eta are going to be in the eta type. Again, for each of these types, that vocative form is the same as the nominative, which is why we ignored it. Like we were talking about earlier with the vocabulary, we listed also the definite article, which will reveal what the gender is. All of the ones that we just learned, the definite article is he, which lets us know that it is a feminine noun. The definite article is used in many ways the same as it's used in English. For example, he thalassa means the sea. Greek does not have an indefinite article like or un in English. If a noun lacks the definite article in the Greek, it'll usually be translated with an indefinite article, or un. Going back to the thalassa example, thalassa by itself would usually be translated a sea. We'll learn more about the definite article later on. That was a lot of information. Feel free to watch it as many times as you want to. I know I will. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.